Welcome to True Crime with Strategic Eyes.
Strategic back again. What's going on, guys? Hope you guys have had a great weekend, man. I really appreciate you guys giving me your Monday. It's been a whirlwind weekend for me, the entire family. Like, first I thought me and my daughter would have lasted the Mohegans, but unfortunately, my oldest daughter has now fallen to the stomach virus. So it's not the flu. I thought it was the flu, but it's not the flu. It's actually a stomach virus that's like destroying my entire household. Like, everybody but me has gotten this stomach virus, and it was very rough last night having 3 people throwing up all night, a 17-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a woman whose age I am not at liberty to tell you on the internet for fear of getting spanked. So so 3, my son, he was the first one to have it, so we know where it came from. We know it came from school. School is the scourge on all families because that's where all these diseases and sicknesses come from. It comes from school. People send their kids to school sick, and then in turn, they then deliver it to everybody else. So my 6-year-old son was the first one to be sick with the stomach virus. Then, of course, he's sleeping in the bed with mommy because he wants mommy's comfort. So mommy goes down. Then, of course, mommy takes my youngest daughter down, my 13-year-old. And, of course, then my 17-year-old goes down, and I'm the last one standing. And I do not intend on getting sick, ladies and gentlemen. So I apologize for the lack of content over this weekend because you guys know I like to drop content on the weekends. But unfortunately, we couldn't get to it because I was taking care of the family. And then today is no different. Today I had a doctor's appointment. Then I got some calls that I got to go take some business, handle some business down in New York City. So there's a lot going on. I said, I don't care what's going on. I've got to get to this show because we've been biting at the bullet to get through this show for a while because it's very interesting. And I got a really good show planned for you guys. So big shout out to everybody who's joining me today. I really appreciate you showing me that love, and hopefully we'll learn something because I'm going to explain some interesting concepts for you guys as to what Stephan Sterns and his attorneys are trying to accomplish, okay? 2 more things. First, I want to apologize to you guys. People are like, why is Strategic apologizing to us? The reason why I want to apologize is because I put up a community post directing folks to my Patreon to check out some video footage that I was able to get off the internet. And unfortunately, this was a young lady who was sleeping, minding her business on the New York City F train. And a Guatemalan migrant, and the reason why I say Guatemalan migrant is because that's what he is. And some people got mad at me for saying that, for pointing out the fact that he's a migrant. I don't understand that. Like I don't live in the world that some of you guys live in. All right, I'm law enforcement, and we'll say that black guy right there, that white guy right there, that Spanish guy right there, that Latino guy. That's how we talk. We don't play the whole PC talk kind of stuff where you can't say who people are because you don't want to hurt people's feelings. If you go to this guy and you ask him where you from, he's gonna say I'm from Guatemala. He's only been here but for so long, but for a couple of months. New York is not his home. America is not his home. His home is Guatemala. So it's nothing wrong. I'm not making a political point by saying this Guatemalan migrant because he is a Guatemalan migrant. He's from Guatemala. He's living in a New York City migrant shelter. He does not have a home. He's technically unhoused, living in a shelter. Shelter is not considered a home. It's temporary housing. So people need to get away from the politics. We should be able to talk like adults here and not hurt people's feelings just from stating facts. I didn't say he should be deported. I didn't go down a political rabbit hole. I simply said the guy is a Guatemalan migrant because that's what he is. And so this woman was sleeping on a train like so many people have done, like I have done for years growing up in New York City. And when I lived in New York City, sleeping on a subway train, trying to get home because I'm working 60 hours a week trying to afford that New York City rent when I was a young man. That rent that's almost as much as mortgage. Poor people are paying mortgages just to live in crappy apartments in New York City. That's crazy. That's how expensive New York City is. Well, this lady's sleeping on a train. Do you know what this guy does? He doesn't squirt gasoline on her. He doesn't beat her up. He doesn't argue her. He doesn't do none of that stuff. This guy walks up to this woman while she's fast asleep. He takes a lighter and simply lights her coat on fire and burned this woman alive. She's walking around the train on fire. You know that slow motion walk that you see in the horror movies? Well, it happened in real life. And you know what he did? He watched her. And as he's watching her, he started fanning the flames to make the flames go bigger. People thought that he was a person maybe trying to put out the fire. No, he was the setter of the fire. He was the murderer, and he was fanning the flames to make the fire bigger, ladies and gentlemen. Well, why am I apologizing? I'm apologizing because when I put up the advertisement for you to go to the Patreon to see the information I was able to gather, I accidentally put in a picture of this woman deceased on the ground, and I'm sorry for that. And Aki told me that, and I instantly removed it. It maybe was up for maybe 20 minutes before I removed it, and I apologize for that because I did not want the world to see this information. And so that's why I'm apologizing. But it really irked me when people forgot about the fact that this woman is gone and her family has to now live with the fact that she was senselessly ended in a place that she should have felt relatively safe in, which is the subway system. And the only thing that mattered to them was their political ideology. That's the only thing that mattered to them, their isms. That's the only thing that mattered to them, not this dead lady who was killed in the worst way. You guys know that we have a mortal fear of fire that has been programmed into us by nature. You remember the World Trade Center? When the towers were burning, people were choosing to jump from the 60th floor than to be burned alive. You don't think you would do the same thing? Your subconscious will take over and you will jump because it's better for you to think, even though it's not true, that you might survive a fall from 60 stories into the ocean, or the river rather, than to be burned alive. What happened to her was one of the worst ways a human being could pass away, is to be burned alive. And this guy did that to her for shits and giggles, ladies and gentlemen. And for some diabolical people out there, yeah, you got to be diabolical if you think like this. The most important thing to you was that Strategic called him a Guatemalan migrant, not the fact that he's a murderer. No. Your ideology is more important than her life. Shame on you. Anyway, let's keep going. People these days. I'm going to do a members show later. The next course thing I want to talk about before we get into the Stephan Sterns thing is in New York State docks, an inmate at Elmira Correctional Facility was beaten to death. And they're saying the union has come out and said that the video is so bad that it will literally endanger the lives of correction officers. I want to talk to the members about that and a Patreon about that later, because I used to work for the Office of Special Investigations, OSI, which is the investigative body that's going to be spearheading this investigation. I know how they do business. I've also participated in inmate beating that resulted in federal charges against state correction officers. And I want to talk about that. I want to give you guys my expertise on that. So look out for that. But after this live, I got to go handle some business down in New York City. Thank God I won't be taking the train. I'll be driving. But we'll tackle that a little later on tonight. And lastly, I just want to say this one more time. If you join the members and, of course, the Patreon, but specifically for the members because the membership is still a part of YouTube, we do not show ads on our members-only videos no matter what tier you're on. So just a reminder to everybody, number one, if you're not a member and you would like to see my shows ad-free, consider becoming a member of the Strategic Eyes Show and True Crime with Strategic, and you'll be able to see my shows, the exclusive shows that I do, ad-free. Not every show, only the exclusive shows that are for members only, you'll see that ad-free. And if you are a member and I accidentally upload a video that's exclusive for members and it has an ad in it, please let me know and I'll make sure that I deactivate the ads, because it is kind of like default, and sometimes I'm rushing and I'm in a rush and I upload a video, I may forget to turn off the default turn ads on so that you guys get that added premium bonus for being a member. Just notify me like, hey, Strategic, I'm seeing ads on this members only video, and I'll go ahead and deactivate that. All right, guys, now let's get started, man. I'm so sorry I went on that crazy rant for 10 minutes, but it really irked me how some of these folks motivate in life in this world. You know, the mentality of some people, you know, that their ideology is more important than lives is really crazy. But anyway, let's keep going, man. So Stephan Sterns, his attorneys filed legal documentation to modify jury instruction. Put that behind us. I first saw this on the docket's YouTube channel. And my understanding is that, because Aki actually got it for me, that the docket posted the link. She sent me the link. She didn't get it, but she sent me the link. And she advised me that the docket actually posted the link for people to just be able and go get this document. So please do. You can go ahead and view it for yourself. It's not much anyway, so we'll cover it on the show. You probably won't need to go back to it. But if I remember, I'll definitely post that link that the docket posted, and you'll be able to have access to this document. You can also go to the docket's channel, and you can check out his breakdown of this. I believe he was one of the first people to come up with this, so you can consider going to his channel and definitely giving him some views and listen to his perspective on this. I did not watch the docket's perspective on this because I wanted to do a raw deep dive into it without being colored by anybody else's commentary. We sometimes do that as YouTubers. Even though I'm a fan of the docket, I am subscribed to him, and he has broken a lot of these cases, a lot of these documents rather, on the Madeline Soto case. Sometimes I won't listen to the docket. I won't listen to Plunder. I won't listen to Grizzly when they talk about certain things because I want to give my own fresh perspective. And if my perspective happens to match what they said, then okay, great. We're probably thinking the same thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just don't want to be colored subconsciously by what somebody else has to say. So sometimes I'll react to it first, and then I'll go watch what they said. But this was one of those instances where it's like, you know what? I heard there's a jury modification instruction. I want to go ahead and kind of process this for myself without hearing somebody else's perspective. So we're going to go through my thought process of what is happening here. And I kind of like peruse through it. It's not a dry reaction, like or just what am I saying? It's not a reaction like I never viewed it before. I just read it right before we went live. I perused it real quick, and I kind of know what he's saying, and I was able to get some examples as to show you guys what's happening, but I'm going to explain it to you from a law enforcement perspective, and I think you guys are going to agree with what I have to say. And if you don't agree with me, then please do send me an email and tell me your point of view and your perspective. But I really think I know exactly what's happening here. I know exactly what's happening here. And I want to also preface one more time and say, I did not listen to any other creator. I have not listened to any other creator and what they have to say about what is the strategy of the defense right now, how it's being revealed to us in filing such as this motion. So if I happen to have the same perspective or theory as another creator, then you know what? They're probably a genius, because I'm a genius. No, I'm just joking. We're thinking the same thing. We're thinking the same thing, and that's a beautiful thing. And that might give even more weight to my theory because other people are thinking the same thing that I'm thinking. But I think, once again, for the last time, you guys are going to agree with me as to what my theory is, as to what the direction of his defense is. And to give you a hint, I've said this before. I've said it before. I think I said I was one of the first creators to say this, to be honest with you. Not that it matters. We're not in a race here. And I don't break news. So I'm not just, I told you so. I had it before the other guys. It's not that serious, guys. But I was one of the first people, in my understanding, to come out with the defense that I believe he's going to use. And you could just simply go back into the Madeline Soto playlist, and you can find the video, and you'll see the date that I came up with this theory as to what is Stephan Sterns' defense going to be. Now, let's jump into this. All right. So this motion was filed on 12/18/2024. Very recent motion. Please hit that like button, by the way. Thank you, Aki. Aki's one of our moderators. Please do hit the like button. We have almost 300 people watching this stream. Please hit the like button, show that love so we can get into that algorithm and more people can find the show. So defendant's motion to modify jury instructions regarding the defendant's burden of proof. Come now, the defendant Stephan Sterns, by and through his undersigned attorneys, and files this motion to modify jury instructions regarding the defendant's burden of proof. In support of this motion, Mr. Sterns would state as follows. 1. Standard jury instruction 7.11 reads in pertinent part, it is the defendant's burden to prove that one or more mitigating circumstances. Make sure that you remember that word mitigating, because we're going to be getting back to that. I'm going to break down mitigating circumstances for you guys, all right? Mitigating circumstances and need not be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. So what they're saying is that we got to get a lower standard. We're trying to get a lower standard than beyond a reasonable doubt. We're trying to get to preponderance of the evidence, I think they're trying to get to. 51%, man, just a lower standard than beyond a reasonable doubt. Instead, the defendant need only prove a mitigating circumstance by the greater weight of the evidence, which means evidence that more likely than not tends to establish the existence of a mitigating circumstance. That's preponderance of the evidence, ladies and gentlemen. If you determine by the greater weight of the evidence that a mitigating circumstance exists, you must consider it proven and give the evidence such weight as you determine it should receive. You need not reach a unanimous decision about whether the defendant has proven the existence of a mitigating circumstance. Any juror persuaded as to the existence of a mitigating circumstance must consider it in this case. What they're saying is, and what they mean by mitigating circumstance, these are things that have happened to the defendant or happened during the situation that kind of lessens the severity of what he did, right? So I'm going to give you, so now we're going to go into, I'm going to read more, but we're going to go into why that matters, why they saying this. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we've talked about this before. We talked about Stephan Sterns. He's basically going to use the defense of traumatic brain injury, TBI. We were one of the first people on YouTube to talk about that defense. Because once we saw that his parents kept talking about his TBI when he was a kid, I said, they're gonna tell that to his attorneys. He doesn't have much of defense. There is no defense to graping and ending a little child. There's no defense to recording yourself having intercourse with a child. There's no defense to that. So they had to now take what little defense they had, which was the TBI. So we said TBI was going to be his defense. But let's keep going. Section 921.141, Florida statute does not impose a burden of proof on the defendant to prove mitigating circumstances. Rather, it states that in cases where the court imposes a death sentence, the court shall enter a written order addressing the aggravating factors and the mitigating circumstances reasonably established by the evidence. Mr. Sterns requests that any language that places a burden on the defense of proven mitigating circumstances be removed from the instructions to the jury. Florida's capital sentencing schemes begins with a determination of whether the defendant is eligible for the death penalty, which requires a unanimous finding that a statutory aggravating fact, I can't understand why I can't say aggravating, weird, has been proven by beyond a reasonable doubt. Next, the jury must consider whether sufficient aggravating factors exist and whether aggravating factors exist which outweigh the mitigating circumstances found to exist. So the aggravating factors are the things that you did that were egregious, that made the crime even more heinous, that would make your punishment much more worse than what it was going to be. So for instance, if you just walk up to somebody and you shoot them, that's a homicide, it's a murder. But if you walk up to somebody and you kidnap them, then that's an aggravating factor to the homicide that you're going to commit later. And if you walk up to somebody and you kidnap them and then you grape them and then you murder them, the kidnapping and the grape are all aggravating factors that would make you somehow maybe get a death penalty if you're in a death penalty state, or get life without parole or life without prison or without any type of chance of release if you're in a non-death penalty state. So that's why we have murderers who get out. They do 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, and then they're free. They're on parole or whatever, because maybe when they committed their murder, there was no aggravating factor that said that they had to stay in prison for the rest of their life. Maybe it was a drug deal gone wrong and it's two bad people who are now having a shootout and one gets killed. Well, you know what? That's just street violence. Does that necessarily mean that you're going to get out in 30 years and go kill another person? Not really. Maybe that's just going to be the only person you ever killed in your life, and you might be able to salvage your life toward the end of your life and live in peace or quiet and away from the law moving forward. But on the other hand, if you're the type of person that's going to kidnap somebody and grape them and torture them and then kill them, well, that shows a very depraved mind, and those aggravated factors are going to maybe keep you in prison for the rest of your life, if not condemn you to the death penalty, because you've exhibited that you can't function in society. This was not a mistake. This was thought out. It was egregious, and you no longer deserve to be amongst us in free society. I think that's the category that Stephan Sterns kind of falls in. He can't function in regular society because he's just that horrible of a person. But let's keep going. The Supreme Court expressed doubt whether it is even possible to apply a standard of proof to the mitigating factor determination. So now we get into all this legalese stuff. Let's keep going. The facts justifying death set forth in the Kansas statute either did or did not exist, and one can require the finding that they did exist to be made beyond a reasonable doubt. Whether mitigation exists, however, is largely a judgment call or perhaps a value call. What one juror might consider mitigating, another might not. And of course, the ultimate question, whether mitigating circumstances outweigh aggravating circumstances, is whether a question of mercy, the quality of which, as we know, is not strained. It's very interesting. The court addressed the fact that different people are going to view these mitigating circumstances differently, and I appreciate that. That's interesting. 6, Florida's procedure follows the same rule and thus is similar difficult to assign a standard of proof to the mitigating circumstances in Florida's statutory scheme. 7, the standard instruction does not follow the law as set out in section 921.141 Florida statutes and is therefore an incorrect statement of law. And 8, the standard jury. So basically kind of making their argument against the jury instruction that's currently in place and trying to persuade the judge to adopt their jury instructions. So let me show you guys just how important these jury instructions are and how they can affect. And rather, let's rephrase it. Let me show you how important mitigating circumstances are and how they can affect the Stephan Sterns case. I will remind you guys of the Parkland shooting. Listen to this.
First to Broward County today, a verdict in the trial over the deadliest high school shooting in our nation's history. Parkland school shooter Nicholas Cruz expected now to spend the rest of his life in prison without parole. The jury did find in this case there were aggravating factors that could warrant the death sentence, but in the end they did not outweigh, they said, the mitigating circumstances established by the defense in the case. Judge Elizabeth Schur read through the... So
remember, the mitigating, if you guys don't know, Parkland, this guy is an animal. He went and killed a ton of innocent children. He hated women. He hated himself. He hated life. He had a quote-unquote terrible upbringing, even though he had a brother that pretty much had the same upbringing, but decided not to go out there and murder 1 million people. Anyway, the bottom line is he didn't literally murder 1 million people. Of course, I'm exaggerating. The bottom line is that even though this was a perfect death penalty case, because I believe that he should have got death, but I accept the jury's decision. I accept the decision because I respect our system of law. But I believe, my personal belief is that Nicholas Cruz should have gotten the death penalty. 3 members of the jury decided not to give him the death penalty because he had a tough life. Let's keep going.
The verdicts today of all 17 first-degree murder counts before that packed courtroom. In it, family members of victims who were visibly shaken by the verdict. Our team has been closely watching this case, of course, for years now. Parkland is not very far from our southernmost point in our viewing area of Boca Raton, about 20 miles or so. WPTV legal analyst Michelle Suskar joining us here in studio to help answer questions moving forward about the verdict and the sentencing to come. But first to our Michael Williams. He is in Broward County, just outside that courthouse where the verdict came down this morning. Michael, you know these families so well. You've known them from the very start. You heard the pain in their voices as they spoke for the first time after the verdict was read. Disappointed really doesn't even begin to describe.
They could scarcely find the words and yet found the courage to speak their minds and from their hearts, the anguish, the anger. As I stand outside the Broward County Courthouse, all of this happening 17 floors above me some hours ago. The jurors ultimately only deliberated for about 4.5 hours, maybe 5. That began yesterday. They had to pick a foreman first. They were done by 5 o'clock, and by the time they arrived today, The decision had been made. Said one dad today, Tony Montalto, whose daughter Gina Rose was among those massacred on Valentine's Day 2018, quote, "The monster who killed them gets to live another day." You're looking at...
I never understand that. I'll never understand it, how people could vote for life under these circumstances. But here is one of the jurors speaking about her experience as one of the people who voted against the death penalty. This is her speaking about her perspective as to why she decided to allow this young man to live. What life he's living, I don't know. You know, he's in prison. He'll never be released. Even if Kim Kardashian's great-great-grandkids tried to fight for him to get released, because, you know, the Kardashians love fighting for these murderers, he still won't be released. There's no way any jury, any judge, any federal agency, any governor is going to pardon or relook his case. He's done. He's in prison for the rest of his days. How is that mercy? I don't know. If I'm in that situation, I'd probably choose death. I'd be like, yo, just give me the death penalty. Don't worry about it. I'm good. I'm good. Who wants to live for 1 million years in prison? I worked in a prison for most of my adult life. And I got to tell you, it's not a pretty place. Even when it's a safe, if you're in a nice prison, I worked in bad prisons and I worked in nice prisons. And regardless of what the atmosphere was, it still was prison. You still lived a very regimented life. You slept, you ate food, and you worked in the various different jobs that the jail had to offer. And most of those jobs was the upkeep of the jail. That was your life. And you tried to fleece your money from your relatives to buy commissary. That is it. Nothing more, nothing less. And a part of my job as an investigator when I worked in the prison system was listening to phone calls, because that's how I solved cases. And I listened to these folks talk to kids that really didn't give a damn about them because they weren't in those kids' lives if they were lucky enough to have children when they went to prison. Talk to ailing and getting old parents, fleecing those parents for their Social Security money so that they could buy donuts and cupcakes in the commissary. It's not really a life worth living. But anyway, let's keep going. I mean, if you got an end date and you know you're coming out, of course it's a life worth living. But if you're in there for the rest of your dying days, what's the point? We should have put Nicholas Cruz to sleep. Did him a favor, really.
It was one of the worst days of my life. I even when I got home, I even had glass stuck in my shoes from that day.
That juror says visiting the scene.
I mean, it's the worst day of your life, but you know, it wasn't the worst day in the life of these parents who had to find out that their children were slaughtered by Nicholas Cruz, and you chose to let him live. You valued his life and your morality over these parents' suffering and justice. But anyway, I mean, that's my personal opinion. I'm not denigrating this lady. Thank you for coming forward. She could have just stayed anonymous. We would know who she was. Thank you for coming forward. Thank you for telling us what these folks were thinking inside that jury booth. And she certainly wasn't the only one, so don't put the blame on her. But, I mean, geez. I mean, come on. If there's a case for somebody who deserves the death penalty, wouldn't it be a Nicholas Cruz? But let's keep going.
The Parkland school massacre was like going to a museum you'd never in your life buy tickets to. And tonight she admits she was among the 3 jurors who voted against the death penalty for Nicholas Cruz. Ari Heit's here with her explanation for that decision and of the heated moments in the jury room that caused, Ari.
And Melody Van Noy says when deliberations first started, 7 jurors wanted the death penalty, 1 wanted life in prison, 4 others were undecided. She says she was one of the undecideds. And what followed was about 8 hours of what she calls very heated deliberations. Melody Van Noy says she was one of 3 jurors who voted to sentence the Parkland shooter to life in prison, saying she felt the young man never had a chance.
It wasn't one mitigation.
You see what I'm saying? Like, it's like... I would give more credence to Stephan Sterns' defense. And we're going to talk about, we're not talking about the Parkland shooter. I'm showing you this as an example as to the power of mitigating circumstances so you can understand what Stephan Sterns' attorneys are trying to do. That is why we're talking about the Parkland shooter. But listen, Stephan Sterns, he's trying to argue that he had a physical injury to his brain that changed the way that he thought and made him make irrational decisions and evil decisions, such as the abuse and the life-ending decisions he made for Madeline Soto. I give more credibility to that defense. I'm not saying it's a good defense. I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm not even saying that it's truthful and real, but I give more credibility to that defense than somebody saying, oh, he had a tough life. He never had a chance. He had a tough life. He never had a chance. So now he has an excuse to go kill our babies. That's what this lady's saying. Is this a mother? Is this lady a mother? He had a tough life and he never had a chance. So I think, I don't know, I'm not that smart. I'm just a dumb cop. Is she just saying that he has an excuse to kill our babies? Maybe I'm being a little bit over the top. I'm sure she didn't say that. She didn't say that. She did not say that, but it felt like it. It certainly felt like it, but let's keep going. Let's bring that back a little bit.
It wasn't one mitigating factor. It was his entire life up until that point.
But Van Noy says some jurors who wanted the death penalty were outraged at the idea of giving the shooter life in prison. She says it got ugly in the jury room.
As it should.
The energy was so heated that we wanted to get out of that room. They had to take us down for over 30 minutes to just give us fresh air so we could kind of move around and separate.
In fact, it was so heated, one juror called the state attorney's office after the verdict to say, quote, she received what she perceived to be a threat from a fellow juror while in the jury room. The judge Friday referred the case to the sheriff's office for investigation.
Because your ideological views allowed a murderer to get away. Now the taxpayer is going to have to pay for the next 70 years of this guy's life. He's young. He was like 18, 19 or something like that. This douchebag is going to be alive for the next 50, 60 years, and we're going to have to pay for everything to keep him alive. We're going to have to pay to keep him fed and alive for the next 50 to 60 years because of your ideological views, not your views on justice and reciprocity. No, your ideological views that he had a tough life. He had a tough life. So that somehow is a mitigating circumstance for him committing carnage. Big shout out to A Obsidian with a $6.99 super chat. Thank you so much. She said, thank you. No, thank you for supporting the channel. You guys see the power of mitigating circumstances? Death for Stephan Sterns is not guaranteed, ladies and gentlemen. It just takes a few folks like this woman that we just watched to steal justice from our grasps. Just a few people like her will take justice from our hands, ladies and gentlemen. It's not guaranteed. Let's play a little bit more.
Another juror who voted for life in prison wrote a letter to the judge saying other jurors accused her of having her mind made up before the trial ever started. Van Noy did not write the letter but says she heard the accusations.
There was really no back and forth for those who voted for the death penalty. So for me, the door swings both ways. We could have easily said that you had your minds made up before you came in here.
Right. So the majority of people wanted the death penalty, and it's not always the case. I mean, maybe because I believe that he should have got the death penalty, so I'll tell you my bias. But you're the one who's right, even though the majority of people felt that you were wrong. I don't know, man. I don't know. It is what it is, man. You know, listen, she got to live with it's. You know, listen, it's easy for her to live with her decision because she didn't make a tough choice. Everybody named Mother knew that Nicholas Cruz was guilty. All she did was say put him in prison. The tough choice was whether he should lose his life, and she made a choice that she could live with. She has no guilt on her shoulders because she's like, well, justice was served anyway because he was found guilty and he's never coming out of prison. She didn't have the courage to make the decision, the real decision, as to whether justice meant a life for a life. And you can tell she just didn't want to make that decision. But anyway, let's keep going.
Van Noy says some jurors said they needed to vote for the death penalty, so they didn't let down the victims' families. But Van Noy says the law doesn't allow her to consider that. She does not believe the jury disappointed the families.
I just disagree on that wording. I think that the Florida law disappointed them.
Hey, why is she saying that? She's shaking her head no, violently. The Florida law disappointed them. Yeah, go to any body language expert and they'll tell you that's a sign of deception. Sometimes when people talk, they'll go like this, you know, that may not, you know, but when you see somebody violently shaking their head no while they're saying something in the affirmative, they're lying. Her whole body is shaking. No. The Florida law disappointed them. Whole body shaking. No. and she's saying something in the affirmative, saying that it wasn't me, it was Florida, you're not being truthful. So this is the power of mitigating circumstances. Now, somebody said that my sound is going in and out. Are anybody else here having this issue? Is anybody else having an issue with my sound going in and out? Let me know, so maybe we could try and triage this, but we don't have much longer for this live anyway. So this is the power of mitigating circumstances, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's listen to their game plan. Big shout out to Grizzly True Crime. We're using her audio, just a snippet for the jail call that Stephan Sterns made with his family. And as I was looking for this on Grizzly's channel, I went to her playlist. She is so organized. Oh my God. Like all her shows are like organized, and each suspect, like Aki, why are we not organized? Like, I'm going to blame Aki, even though I don't think that's her responsibility. I'm still going to blame her. Aki, why aren't we organized like this? What are you doing, Aki? What's happening here? I go on Grizzly's site, all her shows are perfectly organized and neat and easy to find, and you come to the Strategic Eye show, it's like the Wild Wild West. What's happening here? You need to get on your job, Aki. Get on your job before we replace you with MM Claire. Let me stop before Aki beat me up. Let's keep going. So we're listening to Grizzly True Crime. Please go subscribe to her channel. She's amazing. She's awesome. And we're just going to take a quick snippet of the jail call that Sterns did with his parents. Listen to it.
Have a conversation with the appropriate authorities or get an attorney or something. But be that as it may.
Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got a copy of your birth certificate for Sheila Marino and for your case. We're trying to get hospital records from the TBI, but Sarasota Memorial says you were never a patient there, so that was ridiculous because we know you were.
Yeah.
All right, boom. You heard it. They got the birth certificate for his case, and they're trying to get his medical records for the TBI, but the hospital's saying that there was no records that he was ever a patient there. Now, I looked this up. Ladies and gentlemen. Let me bring it back over to me. Once again, big shout out to Grizzly True Crime. Big shout out to all these big shows that allow people to use their content without copywriting them and all that good stuff. I have people reach out to me all the time asking if they could use some of my content. I'm always down for it. The only thing I ask is to do the exact same thing that I do for other shows. I never ask anything of somebody that I'm not willing to do for myself. You don't have to ask me to use my show, even though I do appreciate when people do that. That's really nice and kind of you. But I don't ask these big channels if I can use their content. I just use it. I use it in fair use by making it transformative like this, giving you my opinion, because I'm an expert on the subject matter, so I can talk about these things. And two, I always give them the shout outs that they deserve. I don't give them the shout outs just because it's courtesy, which is important, but I also give them the shout out because they deserve it. So if you want to use any of my content, even if you disagree with me, of course, disagree with me respectfully. Don't use my content and call me the N-word. But even if you disagree with me, it's cool. Like, I'm not going to copyright you because you disagree with me. It's okay. But simply say, hey, listen, I disagree with him. This is why I disagree with him, but this is the link to his show. Go check it out for yourself. That's all I ask for. I'm a small, growing YouTube channel. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. There's going to be some people who agree with you that you don't agree with me, who are still going to want to come to my show and subscribe and listen to my point of view from the horse's mouth. There's also going to be some people who disagree with the fact that you disagree with me, who's going to want to come to my show and subscribe and listen to me. Just give me that courtesy. It's the same courtesy I give to everybody else. So moving forward, anybody want to use my content? You can. It's cool. Just make sure it's transformative and make sure that you link back to the channel. Don't just play my content. Like, there's some people who just replay your content. That's insane. I would never do that to Grizzly. I would never do it to Plunder. I would never do it to anybody else on the internet. Just play their stuff. That's criminal. That's illegal. Don't do that. But you want to use my content transformatively, do it. Just link to my show and give me a shout out and we're good to go. We're done. Same thing I do for everybody else. All right. So that being said, you heard it. You heard it. We're trying to get the information for your TBI defense. And what his attorneys are trying to do with the filing that we just saw is they want to make it easier for the jury to accept his TBI defense, ladies and gentlemen. That's all that is. That's all it is. Nothing more, nothing less. Nothing more, nothing less. The defense attorneys are trying to make it easier for Stephan Sterns' TBI defense to be accepted by the jury. Why does it matter? We done spent like 20 minutes talking about Nicholas Cruz. But if you've been a fan of this show or a supporter of the show, we don't have fans, we have supporters. If you've been a supporter of this show long enough, you know that there's a method to my madness. Why did I spend so much time talking about Nicholas Cruz when we're here to talk about Stephan Sterns? Because Stephan Sterns and Nicholas Cruz are two peas in a pod. They're both monsters, by the way. We know that. But they're both 100% guilty of their crimes. We had video footage of Nicholas Cruz killing babies. We have video proof of Stephan Sterns graping Madeline Soto. Big shout out to Margot Gogo, who gifted 5 memberships. 5 memberships to 5 lucky people. Those 5 lucky people need to make sure that they say thank you to Margot for Margot's generosity. Thank you so much, Margot, for supporting the channel in the way that you just did. Stephan Sterns, Nicholas Cruz, two peas in a pod. What else do they have in common? They're in Florida. What else do they have in common? They both faced and are facing the death penalty, ladies and gentlemen. What else do they have in common? They have in common. Just dropped my, it's an empty can, so I'm good. They have in common that in the Cruz case, mitigating circumstances was able to save him from the death penalty. And Stephan Sterns is trying to pull from the Nicholas Cruz playbook, ladies and gentlemen. He's trying to use TBI as an excuse to mitigate his actions and spare him the death penalty. This case is not about innocent and guilty. This case is about life and death. This case has always been about life and death because Stephan Sterns killed Madeline Soto. But this case is about Stephan Sterns' life or death. That's what it's about. It's not about Stephan Sterns' innocence or guilt. We all know Stephan Sterns is guilty. This case is about life and death. And what they're saying is, if Florida, big shout out to Lakeside Lawyer with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. And Lakeside Lawyer is also a 1-month member so far. Thank you so much for being a member for 1 month. Lakeside Lawyer, appreciate you. It's always great when you get the support of professionals. It means you're doing something good when the pros can watch you and say, hey, this guy's worth watching. You know, I kind of got I got a theory. I think Lakeside Lawyer is a divorce attorney. They just give me those divorce attorney vibes. Like, don't fix your marriage. Give me your money. No, just I'm teasing. They're saying to themselves, if Nicholas Cruz could murder a bunch of babies and get away with it, let me rephrase that, and escape the death penalty. He didn't get away with it. He escaped the death penalty. If Nicholas Cruz could kill a bunch of children and escape the death penalty because he had a hard life. He had a hard life. He didn't have any food in his fridge. If Nicholas Cruz could escape the death penalty because he had a hard life, why can't Stephan Sterns escape the death penalty when he was run over as a little kid and sustained a TBI? And according to his mother, he was never the same again. Remember that? Remember when he said that? His mom and his dad said he was never the same again. What his mom said it. His dad said he seemed like a pretty normal kid to me. I distinctly remember, to the best of my abilities, I remember the father saying, well, he seemed like a pretty normal little kid to me. But his mother said, no, he's never the same after the TBI. He was never the same after he had the TBI. Big shout out to MM Clay with a $5 super chat. Strategic, thank you for not sugarcoating BS and for always demanding justice for the victims. Thank you so much. It's a lifelong pursuit for me, and it's a lifelong pursuit for most of you. Justice, that's all we want. Appreciate you. Thank you for supporting the channel. If Nicholas Cruz can get away with slaughtering children because he had a hard life, why can't Stephan Sterns get away with raping and murdering Madeline Soto when he had a TBI? That's the defense, ladies and gentlemen. That's the defense. So I hope I explained it for you guys today. I hope I made it clear for you what we're working with, what we're up against. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to be an easy fight. This is somebody's life on the line. Understand, attorneys, they make careers for themselves in these cases. Understand, his attorneys are not going to roll over and die. They're not doing that. His attorneys are going to fight tooth and nails for Stephan Sterns. His attorneys are going to fight for him. They're going to turn over every stone. They're going to look into every single legal document that ever was generated in a court of law to try and save this man's life. That's what they're going to do. That's what they should do. That's what we expect of them, right? Because this is America and we believe in justice for all. The process matters. His attorneys are going to fight, ladies and gentlemen, and they're going to push forward this TBI. And if there are sympathetic, softy people out there, I hate to say that. I sound so ignorant when I say that. So ignorant, I know. Tree-hugging folks who will allow this people out there like this woman. Let me get her picture. Where's she at? Like this lady. When I find it, I find it. Who's willing to give Nicholas Cruz a chance? Where's that lady at? She right here. This lady right here. She's not the only one. She was not the only one. There's women, there's men, there's people like this out there. Point that way. Who's willing to let Nicholas Cruz live, even though he committed the most egregious and heinous act. There's going to be somebody on that jury who's going to say, Stephan Sterns had a tough life too. Here we go. This is the video right here. There's going to be somebody on that jury who's going to say, Stephan Sterns had a tough life too. So this is not a slam dunk case. Guilt is slam dunk. Death is not. And so we got to keep the fire under these people's pants. We got to keep going, people. We got to keep covering this story, because just because Stephan Sterns is in prison does not mean this case is over. We thought the case was over when Nicholas Cruz was apprehended. We thought the case, was he operating like McDonald's or something? Or outside the McDonald's, like after he killed all these people, he went and he had a Happy Meal? Big shout out to Susie Costello with a $20 super sticker. Says, you are amazing. Thank you so much, Susan. Susie, rather. Appreciate you. People thought the case was over when they caught, what was this guy name? Nicholas Cruz. It was not over. It was not nearly over. Because when the ultimate decision came, she and others thought he had a tough life. So if you're not raised in an ideal situation with your mother, your father, happily married in a nice big house with a white picket fence and wildflowers growing in your little flower garden and squash and potatoes in the backyard and a unicorn that just gallivants in the back in a little farm you have. If you're not raised in that perfect environment, then we can't put you to death, is what basically she said. Life ever gave you a hiccup? Well, you had a tough life. Anyway, I'm done beating a dead horse. I hope you guys learned something today. I think I broke it down, right? I broke it down. It's TBI, people. Mitigating circumstances. Guys, you guys are amazing, man. Please consider becoming a member of the Strategic Eyes Show. Get exclusive content for people. I drop it all the time. Please also consider becoming a member of the Patreon. The Patreon is huge. We put uncensored stuff on the Patreon. We have no choice but to have a Patreon. Some people get mad, oh, why do you have a Patreon? Why do you have a membership? Well, I just have it. Just joking. We have a Patreon because there's things we can't post on YouTube without getting annihilated by the YouTube censorship. Gorgeous George in the building with it. $9.99 super chat says, popping in late. See yous later at the members live. Happy holidays, strategic and all. Thank you so much, Gorgeous George. We'll see you later on that members live. I'll go ahead and schedule it, and we'll do it later on. I got to run to the city. When I come back from the city, a little later on, we'll do that members only live. So I hope you guys could join me for that members only live. We have a great time in members only live. I'm unfiltered. I don't care. Aki can't stop me. Aki be cursing me out on the phone. Every time I look down, whenever you guys see me do this, it's Aki cursing me out. You going off track, strategic. Get focused, strategic. You talk about nonsensical stuff, strategic. That has nothing to do with the topic, strategic. Aki gets in my arse. But when we're in the members area, Aki has no power. You have no power over me, Aki, in the members only area. You want to see the crazy street? Listen, I'm a crazy dude. I have a great time. I love having fun. I'm insane. All right. You want to see me crazy? Go in the members, join the Patreon. You'll see crazy strategic, where Aki cannot control me, okay? She has no power over me over there. So join the membership, become a part of the family. We have a good time. We give you value for your dollar. We appreciate everybody who's supporting the channel. You guys are amazing. Make sure that you're supporting us because we're trying to stick around. We're fighting against the odds, ladies and gentlemen. And big shout out to everybody who's a part of the Tinfoil crew. We do, listen, like I told you guys, I'm into esoteric things too, man. I'm a true crime channel. Yes, I'm a detective. Yes, I'm all about the facts and being objective and all that good stuff. I do my job, man, and I think I'm pretty good at my job, all right? When you're a person who, there's people who know how I work. People could come out here and say, I know that guy. He's a terrible detective. It's not going to happen, you know? I have a lot of officers that I served with when I was just a cop on the street. They'll tell you, yo, this guy was active. This guy's got his hands dirty. This guy's got accolades for being de-escalation. This guy was a good cop. I don't know anybody who could come up and say, oh, that guy's strategic who's on the internet, he was a bad cop. Nope. It's all out there. It's public information. There's people out there. I don't talk nothing I don't know. I don't talk nothing I don't know. So, listen, we try to be very authentic here, man. We're just being authentic. So come, be a part of the family, and be a part of the real, because what we're doing here is real. This is real and this is raw. And you get it from a perspective that's not readily available on the internet. You get it from a perspective of who's somebody who's currently in the ish. I'm in it right now. In it right now. Telling you what's going on right now. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Susie Costello with a $29 super chat says, I would love to know your thoughts on the Melody Ferris case. I got to look into that. Somebody send me an email because I'm going to forget because I can't see these live comments once the show is over. So please do email me, Melody Ferris, and I'll make sure I check it out. Appreciate you. Is there anything else I want to talk about before I get out of here? Anything else? Anything else? Anything else? Anything else? I think that's it, man. But definitely, please hit that like button, guys. Hit that like button. People don't understand how important the like button is. You don't understand how important the like button is. I need people watching the show, and I appreciate your time at least. You give me your time, and I appreciate that. But understand that my show won't grow unless you hit that like button. It seems like something so minuscule, but listen, these aren't intelligent machines. This is not AI. Well, AI is implemented in it, but these aren't thinking machines like in Dune. These aren't thinking machines, okay? They have the metrics that are programmed into them as to what they look at to determine if a show should be shown to a wider audience. And part of that metric is the like button. And just real quick, how YouTube works is that it shows it to the people who are subscribed to you. And unless you see that engagement, they don't show it to the people outside of your subscription. So there's 500 and something people who are watching the show. 95% of them probably already subscribed to the channel right now. Already members, already subscribed to me. Love watching my show, love taking time out their day to see what I have to say. But for me to reach a wider audience that is not subscribed to the show, you have to hit the like button and you have to comment in the comment section. And that's why we ask you. We're just trying to grow. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. And I lost my train of thought a second ago, but I remember what it is now, and then I'm going to let you guys go. We talk about true crime. We talk about all that stuff. This is why I said about all me being a detective, all that stuff. We talk about all that stuff, and it's important to us. But I also believe in other things like UFOs. And that's why you see me put the tinfoil hat on and talk about UFOs. When I put that tinfoil hat on, it means I'm talking esoteric. I'm talking about UFOs. I'm talking about things that aren't mainstream. That's your signal for you to know we're not talking about true crime today. We're talking about what's happening in this world, in this universe. And so that stuff is important to me. It's very important to me because things are happening out there that we don't understand, and the people who know aren't explaining it to us. And all you have to do is just turn on the news right now, and it will reveal itself to you that there are drones and orbs floating around New York City and New Jersey, and nobody is explaining it to us why there are orbs, globes of light pulsating in a way that we can't understand. Why are there these high-tech drones we've never seen before flying at low altitudes, and nobody wants to tell us about it? And then they're telling us, well, we put a no-fly zone, so no drones supposed to be up there. And it tells us, oh, those might be hobbyists because people just flying their drones, even though these hobbyists are flying over military installations, which is a federal crime, and they're not getting shot down. And they tell us, oh, no, maybe those drones are sniffing for a missing nuclear something. Why are they sniffing for a nuclear something between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m.? Why that time frame? Why that time block? This is the stuff we talk about when we put the tinfoil hat on. So big shout out to everybody who's joining me, who's a part of the tinfoil crew. You guys are amazing. We had a great time talking to you guys. I hope you guys enjoy, and make sure that you're checking out all these videos so we can get into that algorithm. I see you guys on the next one, guys. Strategic is out. See, Aki starts cursing at me again. Not this video. Not this video. See, I got to go. I'm scared. I see you on the next one, guys. Strategic is out of here. It's getting hot in here. Peace.